Welcome to the Outside Insights podcast. Our goal is to provide content and ideas that help you close your personal and professional gaps by hearing how others have done it. I'm your host, Chris Burkhardt, and today we're thrilled to have Cierra Hall-Hipkins on the show. Welcome to the show, Cierra. A little introduction for my audience, if you will. Cierra is co-founder of Network Connect. She currently serves as the executive director. She was named Culture Builder of the Year in 2022 by the organization Technically Delaware. Certainly going to find out more about what that means. That sounds pretty cool. You have a real strong background in rehabilitation counseling, and you've been in leadership and not-for-profit for long enough to be good enough at leadership and not-for-profit. How about that, right? So I'm so glad to have you here. Typically speaking, I get a chance to interview people that have made something hard happen. And certainly your journey is doing something that wasn't easy. If it were easy, everybody would do it. But would you just share your founder story and how you started this organization?
Sure. First, Chris, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you. What we started, when I say we, myself and another co-founder, Aaron, started the agency in 2019. And it's always been a labor of love for me to kind of serve the community. It's something that my mother is a helping person. My grandmother was a helping person. And I've been that way my entire life. And so what I was doing before co-founding was working for another nonprofit agency in leadership. And we started to notice gaps in services when it came to teens, but also families who live in the inner cities or in underserved communities. And so we wanted to build capacity for organizations and families around those gaps. And so that's really where Network Connect's story began. Just coming in and really wanting to provide services that were unique to Black and Brown communities, but were also capacity building for Black and Brown residents.
Cierra, would you talk more about that notion of capacity building?
Sure. So, I like to describe capacity building as, we're as strong as the supports that surround us. And so when you're building capacity for whether it be a person or organization, you're there so that they can lean on you and you become the bridge to different gaps that they have. So, for example, if a school is looking for outside agencies to come and help teach different skills, or if a family is in need for food or they live in a food desert, we try to build capacity by connecting those gaps, whether it be transportation to a grocery store or providing a healing activity during the school day to build a gap there. So capacity building is really just becoming a support to families, to communities in areas that they have deficits.
So do capacity deficits become service offerings if you see that enough? Is that how you've built this out?
Absolutely. So I also am very interested in data collection to see how impactful services are. And so when we see a need, we will make changes or become very flexible to the change in services based on, like you said, there might be a capacity need or a gap in service that needs us to be flexible and make those changes. So this is why we started off with one umbrella program and now we have 7.
So what was it like to start this business from scratch?
It was rewarding in the beginning. It's very rewarding every day. I'm blessed to do something that I love, and I acknowledge that. It's also very hard work to be a leader of an agency that's grown to be pretty large, but also the landscape of nonprofits in a small state like Delaware. Sometimes navigating that can be challenging, but also exciting and fun. A lot of support from other agencies and building out different cultures. So it's been a definitely a marathon, not a sprint. It's something that you practice and you get better at every day.
So there's this entrepreneurial consultant that I admire. His last name's Sullivan. And he always says, like, picture yourself in a rowboat. And when you're building what you're building or what I'm building, we tend to set our goal as at the horizon, that far away point. And you can row as hard as you want towards that horizon and you never kind of get there. And he suggests that you turn around and look at the shore a little bit because it's easier to see and you can see what you've accomplished. It seems like we talk about this on a lot of episodes, but for you, I'm sure you've accomplished a good bit, but there's always so much more to do. And if you only focus on that, that makes the marathon hard to run, right? A little bit harder to run.
It is. And I love that analogy. I'm going to remember that because it's really important to turn around and take that look at shore, especially when you're doing this work, because sometimes, like you said, you get so inundated with what's the next thing or how can we be more helpful, or we have this population who's in need of this thing. And it's really nice to just say, we assisted this person. Even the small stories, no story is small, but even the one-on-one stories where it's just this one person was able to do this thing. It's nice to take a breath and be able to say we are impactful.
I was thinking about that because I think, how are you able to share perhaps an example of the impact of your agency in a respectful way to the recipient? Is there a way to share so that people could get a sense of the impact?
Yeah, there's some really unique stories. For example, when we first started our Community Wellbeing Ambassador program, we have twofold success stories where we were employing people from the community with social capital and providing them a livable wage, but also allowing them to do something giving them the opportunity to do something that they're really passionate about. And we saw ambassadors just grow, become homeowners, or get jobs that they couldn't have dreamed of prior to their training with us. The other piece is our direct connection with the communities we serve. So we have stories of people finding housing after being homeless for years. And I remember when I first heard about one of our ambassadors, we deliver Narcan
Yes.
in the community in mass numbers. And one of our ambassadors was on her way home, going into her apartment building, and she saw someone who was in need of Narcan. And she came to work the next day and just told this story of her being able to use the Narcan that she's usually training people to use and save a neighbor's life. And she was in tears because had she not had the training, had she not had the kit, that would have changed the lives of not only that person who was having the need, but also the family that was there that person lived with. So we have a lot of stories around success, and sometimes it's just nice to sit back, and we do that in our agency. We have connection circles where we try to talk about what we've accomplished as well as what we have going on next.
I like that, the concept of the connection circles, because it is important to celebrate, versus nobody wants to work for the founder or leader who's the what next leader. That's great that we did that, but what's next, right? Not that I've ever done that or you've ever done that, I'm sure, right? But it's hard. When you're hard charging and driving and you want to make a difference, it's hard not to think that way. But if you don't enjoy the blessings of the work you do, it's harder to get something from that. I can imagine that in that situation, does Network Connect get known? Does it get known through that story a little bit? Or is it more about that neighbor just doing a great neighbor thing?
I think Network Connect gets known through the impact, especially on the ground level. I think people are talking about how their ambassadors help them, or how youth, especially with our workforce development program, how they were able to come through, get training, find employment with the help of Network Connect staff. So on the ground level, I believe that we're impactful in that way. And then also with the ambassadors as well, with the staff members and the team members that work with us. I don't know if we get the credit in ways that other agencies do, but we get enough that we're proud of it.
Yeah. And I know no one does it for the credit, but the credit is what gets the next support, right? Whatever that support looks like. So you probably have something you're working on that you're particularly excited about. What's your muse right now? Where are you putting your time and energy?
Well, I get to spread my time and energy throughout different programs. One of my favorite is our flagship program. And you, Chris, we're only 5 years old. We'll be 5, actually. We're going to have a birthday in April.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I'll tell you about the gala later. We're going to do a
You know what I
fundraiser
used
for
to
our-
say when my business was 5? It acted like a 5-year-old. Does your business
Oh.
act like a? Do you know what I'm talking about too? Yes. It's a perfect. It acts out like a late stage toddler is what it acts.
Yes.
I find that to be a good reference point. There you go.
It acts like a 5-year-old for sure. And I think as a leader, you know, when you're a parent to a 5-year-old, you're still kind of a new parent. So I'll give myself some of that too. Like, but it's all fun. It's all encouraging, and I love to learn. So it's amazing to learn every day. But yes, we're 5 years old. So, but you asked me about the initiative that's really hot for me right now, and it's our Future Culture Creators, our workforce development program. The state of Delaware supports by paying teens for them to come and learn 90-day with us, and they do hard skills, and their soft skill is civic engagement, design thinking. And it's my favorite thing going on right now because we've expanded to all 3 counties with this upcoming cohort. And so it was a big feat. But this youth will start on March the 4th. So we're going to get ready to start. I'll recruit it.
So talk about the hard skills. What are you teaching?
So we're teaching them about one of their tasks is they do the ideate process. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the ideate process, where you work from empathy from the start to a finish of a project. And they do that through the Teen Town Hall. So we host a Teen Town Hall, and they have to do everything from the planning, securing the location, and recruiting the teens that come, creating the connection circle topics, and who's going to be the facilitator of the connection circles, who's introducing the topic, those types of things. And they work through those. That's one of their hard skills. The other hard skill is that they will do some community engagement, whether it be an event that they choose to do. Each cohort gets to choose their engagement. So it might be an event that they choose. It might be volunteering at a nursing home. It might be participating in some sort of legislative process, those types of things. So that is the hard skill, is engaging them in their community.
So who sets the theme for those events? Is that decided by the program, or is that by the teens themselves?
It's really decided by the cohort together.
Okay.
We give them several different options, and we'll engage them in different things before they have to do their own engagement, their own civic engagement project. So one of the things we have coming up for this group is to speak with the Delaware Black Caucus. So they'll get to see that process. So we'll immerse them in different processes, and then they get to choose which one they want to host themselves.
That's extraordinary. I can see, those firsthand experiences, working as a team and then communicating as a team and being a facilitator. I couldn't imagine doing that as a teen. Couldn't imagine, Yeah,
they do an amazing job. They surprise me every cohort, just with their ability to connect to people and then really be able to articulate. They do a lot of training, though. Their soft skills training gets them started. They do trauma-informed care and empathy. They do speaking and interviewing and resume writing, and they do have that piece of learning as well. So it prepares them for the big show, is what we like to call it.
Is this after school? Is it a weekend kind of thing? A couple of times? How do they participate in the program?
So it's Monday through Thursday after school. And
wow, how about that?
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like it's growing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, so far we've graduated 107 youth, and this cohort will have 30 youth throughout the 3 counties.
That is phenomenal. So what does being Culture Builder of the Year signify? What is that?
So technically Delaware does these, I guess they're like polls almost where, they engage the community and they get to vote, on certain areas. And at the time, we had just launched our Wellbeing Ambassador program.
Okay.
And Culture Builder was described as, I'm sorry, let me get a drink.
Yeah, please get a drink. It is live. It's fine. Like, right. It's real life. So they do know that we breathe and drink. So, and don't worry, I can always talk. So, so this is in response to that organization ran a poll and you guys were recognized for the accomplishment.
Yes. So they were talking about, one of the things that was asked is how instrumental certain people are in the community. And that was our community voted for us. I was actually surprised because there were some heavy hitting names there. So it was an honor. And I think technically for thinking of us.
Oh, I agree. So I get a sense of where this came from for you. But where was it working in other not-for-profits where you saw this marketplace need? What was your inspiration for going for this?
For starting Network Connect, I think working for other not-for-profits, being in the education system as an administrator,
yes,
learning the need of the community around me, and then also just being an African-American woman from Wilmington, and getting to know what was lacking. There are some amazing agencies throughout the state, right? So I don't like to use the word lacking, but there are gaps in services. Certain people are focused on certain things, and there was a sweet spot in this area of being able to connect people to services, and really providing assistance with that connection, and then also building out trauma-informed care activities and things of that nature. So for me, it was just working in the industry, both here and in Baltimore, and as well as the background of education. And again, being a Delawarian and understanding the everyday life of what we experience where I'm from.
What's the hardest part about running the agency?
I am a lover first. And so the hardest part is for me is really setting policy that you have to stick to, and really understanding, the need for rules. I think I'm a rule breaker. The need for making sure that we stick to the things that we are putting our responsible for, right? Being professionalizing and understanding that those policies, those procedures for staff and for the people we serve are needed in order to serve effectively.
Cierra, I think you'll like this, even though you have to have the rules. My mentor taught me, be careful about creating the rules for the one when 99 people do what's right. And I knew that's sort of where you're coming from. I'm sure there are probably reasons you have to have the rules, funding, proof of data.
That's exactly what I mean. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, doing the right thing sometimes is breaking rules, right?
Exactly.
I think, not to get you or I in trouble, I'll just say, you don't have to agree with me. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't line up with...
And you feel me, Chris, because that's exactly what I mean. It's the outside world's policies and procedures. And sometimes to get to the right thing, that red tape stops you from being able to serve effectively. And We
Well,
follow them, but it is hard.
well, I think you'll also agree with this and identify with it. You started this to have impact. You started this because you felt there was a better way to do things. Sierra, I'm an entrepreneur. I did the same thing. But in reality, we do have to interact with the ecosystem of the world. So it is perhaps a falsehood to think that we can do what we do best without rules. We have to do what we do best and interact with all these other people that we interact with, right?
Exactly.
For me, it's trying to work with a customer who has a very different culture than mine, perhaps, right? But it's the same for you. You're dealing with folks that have different rules and values and procedures, and the entrepreneur in us, that can be challenging. But if you can, I like to tolerate it. I use that word purposely because I know if I scale, I'm helping more people. Like I try to remind myself I'm going to put up with all this because I'm helping more people.
Exactly. And that's my everyday.
Mm.
Making sure that when I keep saying rules, that's not what I mean, but for lack of a better word, but when you're dealing with that bureaucracy or the red tape, is you are tolerating it because at the end of the day, the goal is to help as many people and to serve as many people impactfully and effectively as we can. And so while it looks different on the inside when you're in our agency, it still has to meet up somewhere for the outside, whether it be funding or collaboration with other agencies, things of that nature.
Yeah. What's your leadership journey been like?
Well, that's an awesome question. My journey has been one of many levels. I think I started out in middle management. I've grown into now,
Even the way you said middle management tells us all how you feel about it. There you go.
people
Keep going.
managing people is, middle management has the biggest response. But I think middle management is the reason why I'm such a good leader, because that's how I started, and that it built who I am as a leader today, being able to be empathetic to all the walks of life and the ages and the cultures. I believe that I am a transformative leader.
Okay.
And I think that takes the ability to be able to meet people where they are. And so I've done where I've led small teams, large teams, here now leading a pretty large team. And I think what this leadership track has been one where I'm adjusting to the team that I have. And some leadership styles work for certain people, and some leadership styles don't work for others. Like I said, being able to grow the ladder, I think has really helped me be able to adjust to leaderships and making sure. But I'm still learning. I'm 37. I'm still learning how to be a great leader. I'm still learning
I think being a transformative leader, just the very
really
nature of the words suggests that you're going to evolve and change, right? Like, and we have to have people to lead, or so I would say you have to have followers to have a chance to lead. So different kinds of people, I think, give you opportunities to figure out how to lead them differently, right? But there's definitely an evolution. And then culturally, I think the world expects different things from leaders over time. I don't know if I could lead the way my dad did 50 years ago. I think the world expects transformative leader. You better have a vision. You better find out what moves people. You better be one-to-one and not just, do something for everybody. So I think the world requires a different thing for us today of leadership. So I'm sure you're known for teaching certain things. What lesson do you find yourself teaching and repeating over and over again?
Oh, that's easy. Empathy.
Okay.
Empathy. While people know what the word is, it's different in action. And so sometimes you're coming, even with my family, you're like, oh, I don't understand why this person acts this way. Or if I was doing it, I would do it a different way. But I'm constantly reminding, and I don't know if teaching is a great word, but reminding the people around me about sometimes you have to look at things from someone else's lens and literally put yourself in their shoes and understand their background and why and how they're making those decisions. So empathy is something it's my favorite thing to teach. I used to work for an agency where that was all I did was teach empathy. That was amazing. That was much fun.
So that's your definition of empathy then. Obviously the world would be a better place if we could get everybody to practice it a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you find that the more people are in pain, the less likely they are to practice empathy?
Absolutely. The more struggle that people have, it's harder for them to put themselves in someone else's shoes or to see themselves with their lens. So, I think our world is experiencing that now with all the collective trauma we've experienced from COVID-19 and other sources. It's just hard for people to really come out of self. I think that's the best way to define empathy, is that empathy is being able to come out of self and be able to look and feel and understand why people are behaving or making decisions that they are.
So I have a group I'm launching and I'm running. It's called a life plan review, where you get 5 or 6 people together and you have to set a goal, and then you have to measure your effort towards that goal and whether it gives you meaning and purpose. But it's also about, are you expressing gratitude, and are you doing good in your community? Are you having impact in that way? And it's really interesting because there's people from all walks of life that are involved. There seems to be much more interest in this last part, Cierra, about doing good and having a positive influence than even the goal that they set, because it's not necessarily connected. So I think you're on to something in that. And, I think if everybody would put their day up for review, and this is my own slang and way of saying it, if every day everybody interact with, did I leave them better? Can I put a plus put Sierra's name on a card, and did I leave her better? Did I leave? I think that would go a long way to having a better place. I'm sure you might not even like this question. What do you attribute to your success? Because you might say, I like the success aspect. I don't mean the trappings of success, but what do you attribute to your impact?
I don't consider myself successful just yet. I feel like I still have some work to do. But I'm a spiritual person, so I think that everything I'm doing is because it's divine, and it's not my will but His, and so that's one thing I do. I am pretty gritty. I take a licking and keep on ticking, Chris, and I think that has been very instrumental in my ability to lead well. The other thing I think is that. Go ahead.
No, I got part of that answer. The fact is, you're supercharged. You've got your mission, and you're well backed. That's a good thing.
I have a good team.
Well, you got a really good team backing you.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, the best team.
Yeah, absolutely. You understood me, because I don't mean success in monetary ways or tangible ways. I meant in the ways that you answered it. I ask this of everybody that's on this journey, because if you look at this, you have this big impact. You built this thing. You're making it work. But how do you take care of you? Because a lot of times that's the message I get from people that listen to these. Like, you guys make it seem so easy, but how do you deal with your life? Like, how do you keep this all together?
Yeah, I love that question, because that's something that we incorporate and work here at Network Connect, self-care days and self-care. I'm not always as good as it as I should be, but what fills me up is, one, my family.
Okay.
I'm married. I have a 7-year-old, and I take care of a 16-year-old as well. That's the first thing, is family time. I love to read. And so reading. But I also like quiet time by the water, reading a nice good book. So those are my three things. I should do more of those things, but those are my
You should
go-to.
probably write a book on how you fill the tank with a 16-year-old teenager. You could do really well with that one. I'm sure they're wonderful, but when my teenagers tended to drain my tank, when I was raising them.
Sometimes I just love kids, but sometimes she's draining. For the most part, it's fun to watch. I like watching her navigate through life. I always tell her to make great decisions, and I like to watch her wheels turn around. Is this a great decision? Sometimes she touches the stove. It is definitely hot, but at least she has good support system that can come behind her. It amuses me to watch them grow.
Oh, then that's why it fills your tank. I have to admit, I like teenagers too. I needed them to tie their shoes and be able to brush their own teeth and put their own seatbelt on. And once they can do that, I could go from there.
That's hilarious. Yeah.
What advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
Be patient.
Okay.
Be patient. Take your time. Do things well, because it's going to happen if you stay consistent. So I think that would be my advice.
Stick with it. Yeah, I always used to say fortitude.
Stick with it. Yeah. Yep.
I get it.
Yep.
And don't get too high, don't get too low. Realize you're going to have good and bad days. But yeah, just keep on going.
And those bad days are lessons learned. I think some of my biggest lessons from that era of life came from those bad days, and really, I don't want to feel that again. So what can I do differently? And that's why I say, be patient. Fortitude is a great word, Chris. I love that.
Good for you.
Stick with it.
So you've allowed me to ask some questions. Are there any themes or topics that you'd like to cover that I didn't touch on? Make sure we get all of your thoughts out.
Yeah, I one of the things that I love to share with the audience is that we have building resilience here in our agency, just like capacity, is something that's really important. And so resilience around entrepreneurship, or someone like me who started a nonprofit, is important. I think resilience in community is important. And so I love to just share a little bit about how resiliency can impact growth. And I think that's really my story, is being able to be resilient and understand that, just like what we said about the 21-year-old self. So I just want to leave that nugget too, just how important resilience is, and being able to stick with things and really come out on the other side and not become a victim to it, but a survivor to whatever situation you might have going on in your life.
I think the key is that applies to so many things. It's a universal lesson. I wish more people would stick with things in that way. I always read that people quit when they're 5 minutes away from success. Or 5 minutes away from getting out of the hole, whatever it is. Like we all maybe quit on things. And, Cierra, as an entrepreneur, I certainly, starting the business, worked every day, didn't draw a salary. There are plenty of times where you sacrifice everything. You don't take care of yourself. You only care about the business. Luckily, I had a strong family unit at the time that believed in what I was doing. But you're right. Resilience through all that is the only way that you really make it out the other side to do good. People think it's easy. There's nothing easy about starting something. If it were, everybody would do
nothing
it, right?
worth having. Yeah, someone says this to me a lot. Nothing worth having is easy, right? If it's easy, do we want it? You have to earn it.
Well, you're right. If we're handed things, we don't really want it so much, do we? And we always know. So
exactly, you don't appreciate it.
You are right. So I want to make sure. So there's a lot of people that listen to this, but from a community perspective, is it even the right question to say, Cierra, how can people find out more, or how can they help, or like, are those relevant questions? Are they the right question?
Of course. I'm running a
Okay.
nonprofit. Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
So map
You
that out for
how do
everybody.
they you can find us in a community near you because that's where we serve grassroots like. However, we have social media, Facebook, Network Connect.
Mhm.
Instagram is We Are Network Connect. Our website is www.networkconnect.org.
Yeah.
Upcoming, we are having a large fundraiser where we're going to serve a nice sit down dinner and have some speakers. And it's called our Net Gala. So the Net Gala, which our theme this year is Connecting in Color. And that's going to be in April, on April 20th at the Community Education Building. We are raising funds and trying to provide capacity for ourselves around our programs and services. So all donations are welcome. And I hope that people will look us up and just learn about what we're doing and who we are and how we're impacting Delaware.
So when is that date again?
April 20th is the Net Gala.
So we'll make sure to get this out in time to get some promotion from it. And Cierra, we'll make sure that somebody puts the dates and links in the liner notes so someone can, find it in that particular way. And I certainly hope you'll send me something so that placers can support your event.
Absolutely.
We do a lot in the community education building, so it's the least we could do.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts that you have today? I think you've brought us home nicely. It's been great to have you, but any closing thoughts?
I just want to say thank you. Yeah, it was fun. I really appreciate it.
You got to have fun, Cierra, right? And I think you have a great story, and you're doing the right work, and you got the right people on your roster to help you get her done, and that's a good thing. Thanks for being on Outside Insights.
Thank you.
Last year, my dad, Alan Burkhardt, and I released our book, Opposite the Crowd. It's January 2024, and we've released the paperback version of the book, and it's now available on Amazon, along with hardback, Kindle, and audio formats. We've adjusted the price to be more accessible for everyone. On Audible, it will cost you a credit, or you can pay outright. If you'd like to get the audiobook a little cheaper, you can look at Spotify and other outlets that sell audiobooks. We have the links to where you can find it in the show notes, so take you straight to it. And Opposite the Crowd. If you want the life you want, you got to know who you are.